Okay, so now you scroll to this first box right here, which says imports. And the way that you run this bit of code known as a cell is you hold down the shift button and you press return while you've clicked anywhere in this box. I press this and it runs. Now, if you have any errors running this, if you get an import error or something like that, or if it just doesn't seem to run, it just sits there, it means your kernel isn't set right. Look on the top right there. Look at what mine says. It needs to look a bit like that, 3.12 point something. It needs to be referring to your local .venv right there. That is what you have to see. And then it should run just fine. There's no output yet. Nothing's happened. It should run. It should show a tick mark, meaning that it's run. You've just done some imports. We'll talk more about what all of this does later, but for now, just run that code. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, so come down to this next block of code right here, is we are going to load in that .env file, that secret file with our environment variables, our secrets. We're going to load it in, and we're then going to collect this thing called OpenAI _API _key. And as long as you set it right, then it's going to find a key and it's going to be happy. Let me see, I hold down shift, I hit enter, and it says API key found and looks good so far. Now, if yours doesn't say that, then something's wrong with your .env file, and it's going to give some explanation, hopefully. Maybe it doesn't start with the right thing. Maybe you forgot to save your .env file. Something went wrong. You can go to the troubleshooting lab to dig into it, or you can have a look yourself and try and figure out why it wasn't able to read in your .env file. But I'm hoping it did. You're in great shape. You found an API key. All is good. Let's make our first call to OpenAI running in the cloud. Now we're going to call OpenAI in the cloud. And if you don't want to, if you want to use Ollama, then wait for tomorrow. In day 2, we're going to redo this using Ollama running locally. So that will be your day. So never fear, it will happen. But for now, what we're going to do here is we are going to send this message to OpenAI, to GPT. We're actually going to use GPT-5, the new version of GPT. And what are we going to do? We're going to say, hello, GPT, this is my first ever message to you. Hi. So I put that in this variable message. Now, the first thing I have to do is I have to put that into another variable called messages, which is in a special format that OpenAI expects. And you'll see that cursor already fills in what it knows I'm going to do. But I'm going to ignore cursor. I'm going to type it because I know some people like me to type. So I'm going to type. So what you send to OpenAI, the format is a particular format that OpenAI came up with. And we're going to talk so much more about this format. So I don't want you to worry about it right now. I'm just going to tell you that it is a Python list. And the Python list contains a number of dictionaries, Python dictionaries. In this case, we're only going to have one dictionary. There it is. So it's a list with one dictionary in it. And that dictionary is going to have 2 keys. One key is called role, and the other key is going to be called content. And that role, we're going to put in for the key role, we're going to have the value being the word user. And we'll find out why later. And there's going to be another field with key content. And what we're going to put in there is going to be that message. Hello, GPT, this is my first ever message to you. Okay, that's all clear. Let's just print see what that looks like. It looks like a list with one dictionary in it, with role, user, content. Hello, GPT, this is my first ever message to you. Hi. Okay, that's easy. Next up, I'm going to hover down here like this, and I'm going to add in, just here, another code block by pressing code right there. Okay, now I'm going to type in OpenAI equals OpenAI, like that. I'm creating a new instance of an object OpenAI. And again, we will cover exactly what that's doing another time. And now I'm going to make my first API call to GPT running on the cloud. And this is how I do it. I type response equals OpenAI dot chat dot completions dot create. And that might sound like it's nonsense to you. You will get so used to that you're going to dream it eventually. But for now, just believe me, that's what we type. It's known as the chat completions API. And you say openai.chat.completions.create. We pass in the name of a model, and the name we're going to go with is GPT-5-Nano, a very cheap version of the latest model GPT-5, at least the latest for me right now. And then the messages I'm going to pass in is going to be this variable messages that we just created. And that is it. That is going to call GPT. And with what comes back, what we want to take is we want to take this response and we want to take the choices variable there. We want to take the first choice dot message dot content. There it is. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to now press Shift and Enter. And when I do that, it's actually going to call out to GPT running in the cloud. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. It takes a little bit of time for that. And it says, "Hi there. Nice to meet you and welcome. Thanks for saying hi. I'm here to help with questions, explanations, writing, brainstorming, planning, learning, and more, and coding. What would you like to do today? If you're not sure, here are a few quick ideas," and on it goes. So a very verbose answer for our very first call to GPT running in the cloud. And it was all pretty easy, and we were running it from code. And if you know all this already, then good for you. Zoom through it. If this is completely new to you, then we're going to talk a lot more about this. It's going to all make absolute sense very soon. But I want you to enjoy your first call to an LLM. Okay, so I have written a little function that is called fetch website contents. And that little function is right here in scraper.py. Now, this is what it looks like. This is not a course about web scraping, so I don't plan to tell you about what I've done here. I'm using a lovely package called Beautiful Soup that's very popular. You could look at this function if you wish and use it yourself, but it's very, very simple, and it's doing just what's known as a server-side scrape, that it just collects that web page. It's not actually rendering this web page, so it's not a very sophisticated web scrape, but it fetches the contents of this URL. So that's what we're using here. And for example, I could pass in my own personal web page, https://edwarddonner.com, and I could use fetch website contents and see what I get there. And what I get if I run this is a whole lot of stuff from my website. And if I say like print ed, then we'll get something a little bit more than that. And here it is. This is the contents of my web page with lots of stuff. And it's worth noting that nothing to do with AI at this point. This web scrape is just a simple fetch of a web page. That's it. But now we're going to start to involve AI in this. So I imagine most of you know this already, but some of you might not, that there are these two different kinds of message that you send to an AI, to an LLM, two different kinds of prompt. One is called the system prompt and one is called the user prompt. And the system prompt is where you specify, you frame the overall task they're carrying out. You tell them what tone they should take. You give them context. We'll find out later when we talk about things like RAG that you can supply information in the system prompt. It's a way of setting the scene. The user prompt is the actual message coming from an end user to the LLM that it should respond to in the context of whatever you told it in the system prompt. So that's the difference between the system prompt and the user prompt, and people that are very familiar with this can add all sorts of stuff to that, but we will get there in good time. So for example, we could have a system prompt that says, you are an assistant that analyzes the contents of a website and provides a short summary, ignoring text that might be navigation related. Respond in Markdown. It's framing the situation, it's setting the task, it's giving the format, the style of how response should come. That is our system prompt. And we're going to also define the start of our user prompt, which is, here are the contents of a website. Provide a short summary in Markdown. If it includes news or announcements, then summarize these too. That is our user prompt prefix. So far, so good. Okay. So we saw a second ago that when we're sending a message to OpenAI, we do it using this list of dictionaries. And I showed you one in particular, which had role, user, content, and then we had something like, hi, GPT. So there's another type of dictionary where you say role, not user, but system. And in fact, this is how you specify the system prompt and the user prompt. You have a list of dictionaries, and we'll have two dictionaries. In one dictionary, the role is system, and the content will then be the system message. In the second dictionary, the role is user, and the content is the user message, the user prompt. And so just to give you a silly example, here's one. Here's messages. Role is system. Content, let's say not you're a snarky assistant. Let's say you're a helpful assistant. And then what is 2 plus 2? So this will be messages. And what we can do is then we can say here, response is OpenAI. Look at how cursor fills it in for me. Look at that. Response is OpenAI.chat.completions.create. Model, we'll go with GPT 4.1 mini. No, we'll make it 4.1 nano. Make it a really cheap, simple model. GPT 4.1 is faster than GPT 5. It'll be very, very quick. And we pass in these messages, this list of 2. So let's see what a helpful assistant has to say about this. The helpful assistant, when given this question, we need to print the results. Cursor didn't fill that in. Response.choices0.message.content. Try it again. 2 plus 2 equals 4. So now we're going to change the system message. So it doesn't say you're a helpful assistant. It says you are a snarky assistant. And otherwise exactly the same user message. What is 2 plus 2? We run this and, oh, finally, a math question. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Groundbreaking, I know. That's just the effect of putting in snarky there. And now a quick challenge for you in the spirit of changing things and tweaking the code. Make a different system prompt here. Not a snarky assistant, but something else. Maybe an assistant that speaks like a cowboy or like a pirate, or an assistant that speaks in pig Latin or in another language. Whatever you want, put it in there, experiment, try changing the system prompt several times and get to see how different system prompts with the same user prompt will change the tone, character, and mission assigned to the LLM.